Hey everyone, Zoo Creature here. Welcome to a brand new series I call A Tragic Tale. This series is going to be about Pokemon in Pokemon Go who have fallen from grace, or never really got a chance to shine. Today's first episode of the series, is in light of the newest Community Day Classic, Larvitar Community Day Classic. Tyranitar is the final form of Larvitar, and it has always been a very, very strong Pokemon in Pokemon Go. However, it has fallen from grace, and I don't think many people realize it. Let's take a look at Tyranitar real quick. Looking at the base stats, we see it has a base attack stat of 251, a base defense stat of 207, and a base stamina stat of 225. These are very formidable stats, and they're pretty solid. So, without further ado, let's just go look down at the moves. First of all, we see as Bite Crunch as a great moveset, and Smackdown Stone Edge as another great moveset. Bite Crunch allows it to act as a very formidable Dark type attacker, and Smackdown Stone Edge pair allows it to act as a very strong Rock type attacker. Originally, when Tyranitar first was released, it did not have Stone Edge because this was its Community Day move. It was stuck with Bite Crunch, and it was a very amazing Dark type attacker. Then, once it got Smackdown with Stone Edge, it was a very great Rock type attacker as well. However, since then, Tyranitar has since fallen from grace. But what happened? Well, a lot of Pokemon have been released since Tyranitar's release in Generation 2. A lot. Even since its Community Day. First of all, Rhyperior is a great Rock-type Pokemon. With Rock Wrecker as its Community Day move, and the fact that from its Community Day it was quite accessible, it is a much better Rock-type attacker than Tyranitar, since Tyranitar is stuck with the lackluster Stone Edge. A much better option than Rhyperior is Rampardos, one of, if not the best Rock-type attacker currently in Pokemon Go. With Smackdown Rock Slide, it's an absolute monster of a Pokemon, dishing out crazy DPS, and it's also just a great Rock type attacker. So, what about Megas and Shadows? Well, in terms of Shadows, there's one Shadow that really outclasses Tyranitar, but we'll talk about that in a bit. In terms of Megas, Mega Aerodactyl is the best Rock type Mega currently in Pokemon Go, and also the only one. Mega Aerodactyl is a very solid option. With Rock Throw Rock Slide, it is a very, very powerful and formidable Rock type attacker. Now, let's talk about the Shadow. Shadow Tyranitar is basically the Rock type Shadow. The issue is that it completely outclasses Tyranitar on every front, making Tyranitar basically irrelevant if you have a Shadow, or any of the better options I've already listed. However, Tyranitar is also a Dark type attacker. However, in the Dark type spectrum, it is much more outclassed. Not only by other Dark types, but also Ghost types, which are already considered to be superior to Dark types. In terms of Ghost types, things like Shadow Force Origin Form Giratina and Mega Gengar are two very strong options. However, outside of those, and going back in the Dark types, we have things like, again, Shadow Tyranitar, Yveltal, or as I call it, Yveltal, but most importantly, Hydreigon. There's also Darkrai, which is a very solid option as well. But let's talk more about Hydreigon. Hydreigon is a dark dragon type and is a pseudo legendary. It's been in the game for a while, but it really started seeing play once its Community Day was dropped in June of 2022. With this Community Day, it gained the move Brutal Swing as its charge move, as its elite charge TM move. This move launched into viability, and even bad Pokemon like Guzzlord are still in the top 10 for Dark types just because of this move, even though it has a quite lackluster attack stat. The thing is, Hydreigon really needed this move, but once it got it, it was the dark type. This Hydreigon with Brutal Swing even outclasses Shadow Tyranitar, which is kind of insane. So, couple that with the fact that there are just better dark types, one of which being an absolute monster that had a community day quite recently, and Tyranitar is just outclassed. If we go down and scroll into the PvP section, we can see it's not really amazing. In Great League, there's a lot of fighting type moves being thrown around, mainly in the form of counter, like Medicham and Deoxys Defense. And it has a lot of common weaknesses, such as water and grass. And with Azumarill being a absolute monster, and even ground type attacks it's weak to. Uh, Anyone want to talk about Galarian Stunfisk? Yeah, Tyranitar's getting no play down in Great League. It's a strong Pokemon, but a lot of the more common Pokemon can destroy it. Another thing is, it's got some expensive charge moves, meaning it's gonna take a while for it to hit one of its expensive charge moves. And Bite isn't great for it for energy generation. It does let it shred some Ghost and Psychic types though. Smackdown is great, however, again, it does have the issue of you have very expensive charge moves. In Ultra League, it's still pretty good, but well, it's not pretty good. It's just a bit better, but it's still mediocre. It still has that insanely bad fighting type weakness. And even though it's good against both Giratina forms, it's better to just use another Pokemon. And it still has a lot of common weaknesses. In Master League, it's still good. Again, it just doesn't hit enough in the right way. It's good against Mewtwo and the Giratinas. That's as expected. However, again, it doesn't do much against a lot of stronger Pokemon. And if you have a shield against it, it can't really do anything to you outside of fast move pressure. Even something like I've gone against plenty of Tyranitars, and I don't think I've ever struggled against one once. All you have to do is throw out your Melmetal or even your Metagross, which is already weak to Bite or Crunch, and just kill it. Metagross can just spam Bullet Punch or use Meteor Mash, and Melmetal can just use Superpower and obliterate it in an instant. It's not an amazing PvP Pokemon. It's alright, it's just the Shadow form's better. Let's talk about the Shadow form though. Shadow Tyranitar is basically Tyranitar's only saving grace right now. It's better than Tyranitar in every way possible, including PvP, since it does so much more damage. And let's just go back to this 251 base attack stat for a second. It's not bad, it's just not amazing. Here, let's search up Rhyperior. Scrolling down, we see Rhyperior has an attack stat of 241. Bit lower than expected, but it also has the phenomenal Rock Wrecker. Rock Wrecker is just insanely good. And as you can see down here, initially very similar to Tyranitar as a rock type attacker, this quickly changed with the release of Rock Wrecker. This move skyrocketed Rhyperior's viability and made it a staple attacker for many players. On top of that, Rhyperior is also very viable as a ground type attacker, blah 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 blah. Point is, one move just took a Pokemon similar to the Tyranitar, blew it out of the roof. Tyranitar is now just, you know, I have a few powered up. The issue is, it's just not amazing in its respective typings. As a dark type, it's outclassed by the amazing Hydreigon, as well as Yveltal and Darkrai and Mega Houndoom and things like those. And in the rock type spectrum, it's outclassed by things like Rhyperior, which is outclassed by Rampardos, And Mega Aerodactyl too is just a great solid option. There's a lot of better Pokemon than Tyranitar. Again, it's never going to be a bad option. Tyranitar's historically been one of Pokemon Go's best Pokemon, and definitely one of the most useful. If you're a starting player and you started close to this Community Day Classic, this is going to be a really good Pokemon for you to get. Rock is just a very useful type in raids, since there's a lot of flying type raid bosses. However, the issue is Tyranitar is just outclassed nowadays. If you have better options, you're better off powering those up instead of Tyranitar. It's not a bad Pokemon, it's just outclassed. And throughout the series, this is going to be a very common trend. Pokemon being outclassed because, well, the game has to evolve somehow. It does still have one saving grace, however. Mega Tyranitar. If we go in and tap on Mega Tyranitar, while it is currently unreleased, it has an absolutely massive max CP at level 50 of 6,045, with a base attack of 309, a base defense of 276, and a base stamina of 225. While this will be worse than Mega Aerodactyl overall, well, in terms of DPS, it will have a much higher TDO. Tyranitar does have its final hope in its Mega, which should be uh a great Dark type attacker and also a phenomenal Rock type attacker. But right now, it's not worth using over its own Shadow form and better Pokemon. It's not that it's a bad Pokemon. Tyranitar is just outclassed and not the best at what it does. So thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this new type of video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I do want to make more videos like this in this A Tragic Tale series, and let me know if you enjoyed. In this series, like I said, I want to cover a lot of Pokemon and Pokemon Go who have basically fallen from grace. In the next episode, I think I want to talk about Gyarados, but it might change. And then actually I should mention, it's not just going to be Pokemon that fall from grace, it's also going to be Pokemon who could have been the top, like the pinnacle of Pokemon perfection. There's one issue with them that just really ruined them. So thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and comment if you enjoy this new series or the idea of it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao.